How's it going, everybody? It's your boy, and it's been a long time. In fact, I didn't even release a proper video last week. It was just 2 streams. I had some unfortunate things happen that wasted my time. Also work, been working a bit more hours recently, but that's going to change soon. Don't worry about that, more when that actually happens. But something that is more pressing in the world has happened, and I really need to talk about this, and that is Article 11 and Article 13 that have been proposed by the EU. Now, what is Article 13 and what is Article 11, and why are these things really important? Well, these things threaten the internet in regards to freedom of speech, in regards to fair use, in regards to what companies can do and what we can do as people, and what we can put online in regards to content. So let's just start off with Article 13. What is Article 13? In Article 13, according to the journal, would require websites to monitor copyrighted material and would make them legally liable for any copyrighted material shared by users. Basically, what this means is that any content that has a copyrighted symbol or anything you can possibly imagine that is on it would have to be removed by these companies because it would infringe upon the creator's copyright. And this means that essentially the law is becoming even more strict in that regard. So imagine anything, memes, remixes, all these things can be potentially destroyed or damaged because of this, meaning that the internet isn't going to be as free and open as it once was. Basically, this article does not take fair use into account, and apparently it wants these tech companies, mainly US companies. Many people see this as a fight between US tech companies and the EU and foreign governments over who controls the internet and what can and cannot be allowed on said internet. Basically, they want these companies to create algorithms and to employ people to basically police their spaces in order to find these copyrighted materials. And it's so vague that we don't even know what these technologies, because that's what they call it, technologies, are. And as we've seen on YouTube, as we've seen from Facebook and Twitter, these algorithms are rubbish. They're nowhere near the finished article and cannot determine what is fair use, what is parody, what is transformative. And at the end of the day, this is going to create an even worse era for the internet in regards to creation online. This will stunt memes. This will stunt parody and remix, basically allowing anybody to take down anything that they perceive to be a copyright threat. In fact, you could even argue that this could be used to create even further false copyright claims that YouTube has to deal with on a regular basis. And the problem with this, and this is a similar problem with Article 11, they're not making this EU-wide. This is all up to the 28 member states. So depending on which country you're in, this could be lax to incredibly strict. And as we know, in regards to Facebook, Google, YouTube, etc., all these companies will probably take the strictest approach in order to, cover themselves. And let's not forget that the smaller companies, which is this supposed to protect, we keep hearing that this is all for the businesses, for the good of business. Well, the small businesses can't afford to employ millions of people and to create these algorithms in order to, watch out for any copyright infringement, because we don't get in trouble for that. The people, they do. They will be the ones who have to basically pay the bill for any infringement. You post a GIF of The Office, they're going to get slapped with a copyright infringement by Comedy Central. Potentially. You post a meme that has to have Zach Galifianakis on it, or some kind of copyright material, Pepe for example, who comes from a cartoon comic book, slapped with a copyright infringement. And for the bigger ones, they can handle that. But for the smaller ones, no. So basically what these articles are going to do is to basically prolong the life of Facebook, Twitter and Google and make life harder for sites like Gab and Minds. It's interesting. It really makes you think. But you can be safe in the knowledge that thankfully these bigger corporations are just as much against Article 13 and 11 as the smaller ones are. But I'll get into that in a little while later. It's up in the air as regards to which one is worse, because both spell a danger for free speech and stuff like that. But the way that people express themselves is under direct threat here. And this will force companies who are already censorious as it is to further censor people. Think about it. Any country, any company, any kind of figure who owns a particular piece of media can use this law to stop people from using these means of communication to spread messages that they don't agree with. Think about it. The Great Meme War of 2016 would never have happened if Article 13, for example, happened in America, if it was released by law during the Obama administration. Just as an example, just as a thought experiment, that would never have happened. Trump would probably never have made it into office. Potentially Hillary would have won, because she would have won the propaganda battle, because she had all the media by her side, while Donald had the people. And when the people don't have the tools and means to combat the establishment wins. But anyway, let's move on to Article 11. Again, according to the Journal, Article 11 would force online platforms like Google and Facebook to pay for links to news content that they use. Major publishers have pushed for the reform, seeing it as an urgently needed solution against a backdrop of free online news that has decimated earnings for traditional media companies. Basically what this has been pitched as by the powers that be in the EU is that this is meant to help the little guys, the little publishers and even the old media publishers, to get money that they apparently rightfully deserve when people link their articles on other social media websites, when social media websites use it in the news feeds. So like in Twitter's own newsfeed and Facebook's own newsfeed. Apparently these media outlets don't get the money that they deserve, even though, according to copyright law, current copyright law, all of this is perfectly legal. And what's more interesting is that they want to try and copyright headlines, because headlines are just matters of fact. Well, some of them anyway. So if you were to post something that's just said a matter of fact thing that happened to be a little bit like a news article, you could be copyright striked for that, or at the very least the platform you're on could be. And again, this is another interesting thing, because this means that countries, if they want to, and we know that they will, could use this law to determine what news reaches the outside world or in their own country. These people can just say, well, you're not paying for your license, mate, therefore you cannot have this article published on your social feed. Essentially, it's going to end up like China or Iran. That's what it could be like. Now, apparently, there's been similar laws in Germany and Spain, but the problem was that the big corporations would just ignore it. They would not post news from those countries, which meant that these media companies lost out and ended up giving free licenses to the big companies. We've got to hope that this happens, but again, we don't know. We don't know if that's going to happen at all. This threatens the free movement of information. I don't even understand why this law needs to be written in the first place. Why is this article even there when they are protected by copyright? There is already laws in place that, govern this. I don't even understand why that's even there. That just seems like a strange caveat to everything. Now, thankfully, as I mentioned before, the big companies, amongst them even Netflix, have spoken out against this. And, maybe it's purely for business. Maybe some of them do feel as if they have a moral duty to stop this from being passed in the EU Parliament. And even other media sites like Gizmodo and Boing Boing have spoken out against this. So it's not like even the mainstream media are entirely in cahoots with each other. Other individuals have spoken out, including amongst many, Tim Berners-Lee and Jimmy Wales. And this is what they said in their letter to the EU. By requiring internet platforms to perform automatic filtering all of the content that their users upload, Article 13 takes an unprecedented step towards the transformation of the internet from an open platform of sharing and innovation into a tool for the automated surveillance and control of its users. Europe has been served well by the balanced liability model established under the e-commerce directive, under which those who upload content to the internet bear the principal responsibility for its legality, while platforms are responsible to take action to remove such content once this illegality has been brought to their attention. By inverting this liability model and essentially making platforms directly responsible for ensuring the legality of content in the first instance, the business models and investments of the platforms, large and small, will be impacted. Damage that this may do to the free and open internet as we know it is hard to predict, but in our opinions could be substantial. In particular, far from only affecting large American internet platforms who can well afford the cost of compliance, the burden of Article 13 will fall most heavily on their competitors, including European startups and SMEs. The cost of putting in place the necessary automatic filtering technologies will be expensive and burdensome, and yet these technologies have still not developed to a point where their reliability can be guaranteed. Again, echoing what I've said and what other people have said across the internet. Now, it's good that these people are speaking out, and it's good that even the big companies are speaking out, and I guess for the time being, a truce may have to be arranged in order to combat something that threatens all of us. This is a time when we really can't afford internal squabbles in this culture war and actually band together and stop something that is a much bigger threat. Now, what can we do? Well, all we can do is contact our local MEPs in Europe. And as for the Americans, I suppose you can just spread the word around if you know anybody in Europe, or hopefully it reaches somebody in Europe, and educate people. That's what you can do. You can't really affect it in the way that we can, but it's not like you can't not help. You can help just by, raising awareness. That's for my North American, South American, non-European cousins. Just go out there and spread the word. Make sure as many Europeans hear about this as possible. As for us EU citizens, I will link a website down below which will allow you to contact all your MEPs in any way that you see fit, just by using your postcode and things like that. You will be able to find every single one and email every single one, or even call them if you so wish. And that will definitely help as well. I've already done it. Maybe there's probably some petitions going around. If you can, find them and post them in the comments so people can link them. If it gets posted as spam, which is not YouTube's fault, I will just unspam it and people can click the links. Because trust me, this is going to need an organised effort by everybody to stop this. Freedoms are at stake. The internet is at stake. The reason why the EU is potentially doing this is to prevent subversive elements within its borders from speaking out and attacking it. Perhaps this is a defence mechanism to protect the big corporations in the media, maybe, or at least that's what they're claiming, and to stop people from speaking out. This could be it. Or maybe it's just the bizarre rulings of a elite that have no real idea of what's going on in reality. And I know, the internet, reality, right? But regardless of their reasons, it's dangerous. And it all affects us in different ways, but ultimately is a net negative for everybody. So again, do what you need to do. I've done my bit. And until next time, it's been your boy, and I'll see you later.